Hey, so we're here gonna show you how to slice things. So yeah, the because of my printer's so small, I had to actually split this model up into parts because it just wouldn't fit on the build plate. So yeah, that's I've opened it up in this Flash Print, which is the printing software I use for my filament prints, but it's just a better. It's just got a good slicing tool. So yeah, I played around with it earlier. Decided that the best way to do it was to chop it off at the wings. Um, and yeah, just here we're figuring out the best spot to cut it. Split it up into three pieces. Just checking that I'm not chopping any of the tail off or anything like that. Yeah, and then once I've got it from here, I can then delete it into like separate pieces and then save them each as a different object. So that's what I'm doing here, and bring them over into this Chidu box. So yeah, to obviously save time, I brought up both wings, smash them in here, and then this is just it's always like I'll show you a bit later when the body, but these ones pretty much because the way the model was had flat bits at the bottom of the wings. So that's why I decided to just like pretty much the way it ended up was the way to do it. You sort of got to find the right orientation. But yeah, these just happen to be right way up was the perfect way to print them because of this flat section at the bottom. You'll see when I scooch around the bottom that was like getting the flattest part, the less details at the bottom of the model. So yeah, now we're into supports. So I always start with a raft because it's the easiest way. Tudo Box actually, I don't know if I changed much in the settings. I can't really remember now, but it's got good auto support. So that's what I've done there. I just filled in all the auto supports. And then basically from here, I'm just looking for like overhangs. Anything you just got to sort of think that what's printing now is upside down. So you're basically hanging the model off the build plate. So you can't really create something out of nothing. So that's what these supports are for. They build up from the build plate for something that's going to appear later in the model. Like the wings were pretty simple. Most of this is just filling in. You can see here like adding those supports, like the little supports that are all out on their own. I've had them snap in the past, so I call it like supporting the support. So you see those ones that are just chilling out on their own there on the left. Um, they're the kind of things that I'll always fill in. Tutor Box also does a good job. Like you can sort of see like some red, like shading. That's just showing you like a spot that is probably going to have issues. So gives you just a good indication of where to start. But I like going overkill. And then the same, like just moving these so that they pick up the ones next to them and get that like scaffolding. It just helps hold them all together, give them strength. If it's just a single little tiny, like these supports are, what are they, 1.1 millimeters, so it's really hard to sort of expect it to go up 100 mil on its own or 40 mil or something on its own. So yeah, that's why I try and make these little scaffolds, just pretty much just supporting the supports. Starting at the bottom and just working your way up. Just got to pick the model, look around. Obviously, like anywhere you put a support is gonna have like a little support nub, but it's also gonna preserve detail. So that's sort of why you're looking here. Like along there, it was one of those things like it's probably gonna be all right. It's always a bit of a gamble, but that's why I'd rather just like for however much resin a support is, I'd rather just add a little bit extra. So again, there, like where I was mousing over, it's like I supporting up here is like it's that gamble. You're gonna end up with like a nub there, or like it's so fine that you probably kill the detail by putting in a support there. And then here, this step, I just go along like big, heavy sort of models like this. I grab some heavy supports, like some real thick ones, and I just put them like obviously like the bottom part here is not detailed at all, so I just smash some heavy supports in there just to help hold it down to the build plate. I've just found that that's helped. Not have them peel apart. There wasn't a whole heap to learn about this. Like pretty much, it is what it is. Like it was a pretty basic model, so the wings weren't too hard to support at all. Yeah, just checking here for like overhangs. Any spot that I think is gonna have dramas. Yeah, I noticed I left it on. Yeah, cool. All right, went back to light. Yeah, putting heavy supports in. Like the heavy supports leave a pretty big like witness mark where they were. So yeah, you want to try and steer away from heavy supports in detailed areas. So again, yeah, just looking for these kind of like any of those red areas or somewhere you're gonna have issues with with potential loss of detail, because you'll get like a flat section as it tries to build just on the build plate. But yeah, like most people would probably consider this overkill, but yeah, I'd rather have extra supports, use a little bit extra resin. So then here, yeah, so this is the settings I use. And just before I save it, I always come to this little section. This gives you like each individual slice, so you can see, does it say there somewhere? So this is going through each, so my layer heights, it's 0.05 of a mil. This is, yeah, just going through each spot. And what I'm basically looking for is like something that's just appearing out of nowhere, those like deep white lines. Just looking there to see if anything's just all of a sudden appearing. You're also checking here, like sometimes your files can be corrupted, so you can get like a couple of layers that are just like the whole entire screen filled in. So you just want to always make sure you go through that step and just have a quick look. Yeah, so this is the trickier one. So basically, like the schools of thoughts here are like anything that's pointing up away from the build plate is going to have the most amount of detail. So like obviously like there's a lot of spikes on his back, but there's also a lot of spikes on the dragon's chest. So it's that. Do you want like which part of it do you want to preserve? And obviously like for a tabletop, the top is what you're going to see the most. So those like details on his like chesty beard kind of thing, if we lose a little bit there, then like so be it. Yeah, it's like I decided on this one that the spines on the back were probably what I wanted the most, because each one of those that I put a support on, if I was to flip the model upside down, it would just lose a slight bit of detail. So yeah, and then here again, all I'm doing here is just trying to get it so the most of the spikes are pointing up, and just all about angles. Anything from like 40 degrees to I guess 0, like pointing directly up, is what you're aiming for. Like sometimes just rotating a model by like 15 or 20 degrees just to get those spikes like pointing upwards is what you're aiming for. Yeah, so then you can see like anything out in the red there is off the build plate. So this is just because my printer's quite small compared to most of them, so hopefully you don't have this problems with whatever you buy these days. Yeah, so again, I get my raft on, just go auto supports. You can muck around with the settings. I think I just got mine maxed out on like whatever the max setting was, because I figured I could always just take them off. You see like the little bit of the raft sticking outside the build plate, that's fine. That's not going to affect much at all. Yeah, and then it's just you start somewhere and work your way along. So I normally, yeah, so you'll see here I like that little stick all by itself, just give it some help here. Support the supports. It's, yeah, because if that support fails, then that tail will end up as like a flat blob, and something like that far into the build, man, like you just lose so much. So this was, I did mention as well, like hollowing. Like some people will hollow this out, but I just had so many issues with hollowing. Like you might save a few mil. If it was a really wide print, I'd worry more about suction and stuff like that. I might look at hollowing it, but something like this, it's just because you end up having to go inside the model and then support everything inside again. So you end up like filling half of the model up with supports on the inside as it is. So I just found more issues with hollowing than it saved in resin. Like your time spent trying to print this 3 times, hollowing it out, the amount of resin you waste instead of just like biting the bullet, printing a thick model, and then spending an extra like 50 cents to a couple of dollars on resin. So yeah, this is like each one of these that I left on the chest here that I leave unsupported is going to lose a little bit of detail, but they're pretty bunched up. Like earlier in the shot, like I swung around sort of looking from the rear of the dragon, and you can see there's a bit of holes in between them all, but it's just a matter of yeah, just like how many supports in there, and how much detail you want. Same with these like little spines here, because they're pointing down, they're going to lose detail. They'll end up, you, it's one of those things that you could fix it with a knife if it's stuffed up. You just get like a craft knife or whatever, and you just like file them, but they're just going to come out as like these flat little discs, because it basically, the printer's telling it to start printing in that spot, but there's nothing there. So after a couple of layers, it'll eventually sort of pick it up, but they end up with these like flat blobs. Yeah, and then here we are. Yeah, just again, you're just looking for spots here, like the big heavy like overhangs like that. You just want extra supports. That's all I'm doing there, is just making sure that, like, so if one of your supports fails, then you've got something else to pick it up as it goes along. Yeah, here we're just looking along these. Yeah, just like I said, Tutorbox does a pretty good job of supporting. I max it out. You can, yeah, again, it's all like a time saving thing, or a resin saving thing, I guess. Like, you got to think, like, with an FDM printer, with like your filament printers, the less amount of printing you're doing, you're saving on time. But with this one, it's got to do the layer anyway. So whether it has the whole entire build plate showing or one piece, it doesn't change the time. All you're doing is saving resin. And then these things, because they're close to sort of that 45 degrees, I was just coming through and putting a few extra spikes. Like, in hindsight, when I was watching this video back, I thought I probably should have tried to put those spikes a little bit closer to the base, so it built up on the support instead of sort of supporting there. I think they're sort of a bit redundant, what I've done, like, in hindsight. Yeah, and then that's pretty much it. Like, it's just looking for, yeah, anything that's sort of over that 45 degrees hang. You want to try and just give it some help to not appear out of nowhere. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I took it from here. Like, you can sort of see down on the tail, I probably could have put some extra supports on there. Be interested to have a good look over this model and see what parts sort of failed and what didn't. I was pretty happy with it though. So yeah, here we just go into this slicing thing again. Pull up the slices and just looking for any of those like deep white dots that just sort of appear out of nowhere. But yeah, the other thing here, I think I should have, on the feet, gone back and done some heavy supports on the feet, and across the tail, just on the bottom side, just because it was a big model, just to give it just some like really big thick supports to sort of start and build off. They were probably the big mistakes I made on this one. Yeah, then that's it. Once you're happy with it, you cross your fingers, send it off to the slicer, send it off to the printer, and there it was, printed up, and that's the finished model, as you guys saw when you fought it.